So right now is the perfect time to be playing Hypixel Skyblock. It's currently the 6th anniversary event, meaning that we get an extra 20% dungeons and skill XP, and also plus 10 magic van across the board. Well, it's also Jerry at the same time, majority of people's favourite mayor. Jerry is great, but why is Jerry great? Well, we get a 10% stat buff across the board. We can find hidden Jerrys from doing anything in Skyblock, and of course getting those sweet Jerry boxes. But most people are here for the perk apocalypse. Activates all perks of another mayor every 18 Skyblock days or 6 hours, which means every 6 hours we're getting a new mayor, which is absolutely fantastic. So number one, Jerry is basically something for everyone. And also, sometimes just how it happens and just down to luck and people voting for other mayors, some mayors don't get elected for a very long period of time. And when Jerry comes around, it actually gives those other mayors a chance of actually getting in office in at least a 3-perk situation. Jerry is the man doing all the charity work for everyone. In every other situation, this is great, you know? We've got the 6th year anniversary event with Jerry, fantastic. Although I feel like I'm kind of waiting for a bus, waiting for that foraging update to drop. Past time I've had some results doing things like this. Anyway, that got me thinking. Of course we have Jerry, and the foraging update is not far away. Jerry all about other mayors rather than himself for the most part. Are we ever going to see a foraging mayor? Well, hopefully so. We'll get to that in just a moment. But before we get into that at the moment, we're actually trying to beat the population of Andorra with subscribers. The population of Andorra is around about 80,000 people. And once we reach 80,000 subscribers, we'll actually be visiting Andorra and we'll be able to claim that we have more subscribers than the population of the whole country, which would be pretty cool. So make sure to subscribe to make that happen. Also, if you are planning on purchasing anything from the Hypixel store, make sure to use code NITROS. It gets yourself 5% off. You should join the Discord server. It's linked in the description of this video. We offer slayers and dungeon carries, so if you need carries, someone's carry and make some coins, make sure to join. Now in the past, it's never really made any logical sense to have a foraging specific mayor. That's simply because at current and pretty much for the past 6 years since Skyblock was created, there has not really been any foraging content. No armor sets, 1 or 2 axes you could say, very little capabilities to actually increase your foraging wisdom, and foraging fortune gemstones that were only introduced in the past year or so. When you compare that to other skills, like mining, the amount of different things you can do, the same goes for fishing, and also farming because there is quite a lot of progression. Foraging, obviously, is currently completely and utterly lacking, of course, probably not for long. But it makes sense why all of those skills have, well, actual skill-specific mayors. For example, coal for mining, Finnegan for farming, and of course, Marina for fishing. Now, in my opinion, foraging in the new foraging update takes aspects, probably the best aspects, or some of the best aspects from other popular skills. For example, a very, very similar system to the Heart of the Mountain tree in the Heart of the Forest tree. Of course, that is basically taken straight from mining. And of course, contests that resemble something similar to Jacob's contests. It surely seems like a matter of time to me, just until we actually get a foraging mayor. I mean, it's very easy to look at other mayors like Finnegan and Hull, and assume that a foraging mayor would probably grant foraging wisdom or fortune. Because, well, it makes sense looking at other mayors. Finnegan, farming fortune, and then also Cole, mining wisdom. But you'd expect it to have its own twist as all the other mayors do. So, on the forums I've found this post from May 2022, over 3 years ago at this point, from somebody called Sir Roossalot, who I guess was speculating on what a foraging mayor could actually look like. We're going to take a look through it and see if, you know, these sort of perks still align with what is a possibility today. Mayor Jack. Jack seems fitting, why not? Mayor type, foraging. Perk 1, recursive chopping, reduce cooldown on jungle axe and tree capitator by 50%. Now, it seems that there isn't a cooldown in the new update on a tree cap anymore, so this would be a little bit pointless, but would have been a good idea back in the day. Perk 2, bigger trees, 1.5 times foraging fortune on public islands. Why not? Seems good to me. Perk 3, bonus Ent season. Awakens the tree Ents an extra time during the year. Not sure what that is yet, but I think we have context further down. And perk 4, which rotates, which is thicker bark, 1.5 times foraging XP. Makes sense. I think probably 50% extra on the fortune and XP probably seems a bit too much for what we see today. However, something similar to this would probably be good. Now, you might be thinking, what's awakening the tree Ents? Well, actually, that is exactly what I was thinking, so I'm glad you put this. The ancient Ents have awakened from their lengthy slumber and are wreaking havoc. Stop the hordes. Every year, the Ents wake up to attack Skyblock citizens. They would appear randomly when attempting to cut down a tree and attack players around them. Drops could be used to craft a better tree cap or something. Wait a minute. Now I know this is not going to be exactly the same, considering in the Black Lagoon you can't actually forage these trees that seem to appear. But for whatever reason, this kind of gives me Hedgehog vibes. I'm sure you can't forage in the Rift and it wouldn't be obviously the exact same concept, but it just kind of gives me that sort of vibe. Why this should be added? As the devs told us in a 1.0 thread, foraging sucks and the community agrees. This would hopefully make it less so. And for the most part, it would probably be quite a decent idea. Even though that thread was created over 3 years ago, most of it still stands today. Wouldn't be bad. The Ents sort of situation would probably have to be looked into a little bit, considering, I mean, there's now a mashup of mobs on the new foraging island that kind of mashes into, you know, hunting rather than foraging. But to be honest, it would probably make sense to have a hunting and foraging mayor. Go away, Hobbsy! Anyway, yeah, it would probably make sense to have a hunting and foraging mayor rather than just foraging, considering kind of mashes into one. And of course, when we look on everybody's favourite most reliable website, Reddit, the discussion has started up once again, just 11 days ago. This is the new foraging mayor, guys. What do you think his perks would be? Throws a chainsaw head to start off with. I always thought that in an attempt to replicate mining, that foraging would have chainsaws. Seems like they're just going down the axe route. Yeah, so in true Reddit fashion, this is one of the debates of all time. 50 foraging wisdom if female skin. I feel like the other guy 3 years ago had a bit of a... Yeah, he had some better ideas. Ah yes, so raises foraging update after eating a tree. Trees will no longer fall on your leg and break your kneecaps while this mayor is in office, bruh. You can now kick humanoid enemies in the groin, and he gives you plus 15 boost to foraging fortune. Ah yes. I mean, I know this is probably hard to believe, but I think I just lost brain cells. Didn't really think I had any more left to lose. Now, from my understanding, there's not really any official word on a foraging mayor at all. But I personally think it's needed, and it only makes sense to have at some point in the near future when the foraging update releases. Maybe even on release, but I guess if it was on release, we probably would have known about that, you know, on the alpha or through the patch notes and so on. Well, not patch notes, but you know what I mean. And all in all, it just wouldn't really make much sense to have a mining-specific mayor, a fishing-specific mayor, a farming-specific mayor, even a dungeon-specific mayor, but then not have a foraging one with it having such a substantial revamp. Plus, not only will the foraging update be fun, I feel like this would just take it to another level. The hype would be crazy. Anyway, that's going to be all for today's video. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Are we going to see a foraging mayor? And if we are, what are your thoughts on what the perks could be? If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.